Welcome to episode number
54.
We are so excited to be here. Thank you, everyone who went up and submitted for our contest.
We really appreciate that. We appreciate your ideas, your suggestions. We got ideas for episodes on neurodivergence, menopause, sexual trauma, busy lives, children. What else? There's so many.
Yeah,
Desire differences.
too many to mention all of them, but we really appreciate each of them. Thank you so much.
And we will be talking about them because there was a lot of really great ideas in there. And so we're definitely going to address those in future podcasts. And we really wanted to make everyone a winner. I mean, this was kind of hard for me, honestly. I was like, do you think we can just give everyone sessions? But honestly,
there you go, trying to give things away. I was the one doing that.
I can't give everyone.
Well, let's stop beating around this bush. Let's get to it. Everyone's waiting to find out. So we're going to announce our winner today, right now, this very moment.
Drum roll.
So we want to thank everyone, and especially Suzette Moody. Suzette Moody, congratulations. You're a winner. We'll be emailing you a link to be able to sign up for your free sessions. We're so glad and excited to work with you. Thank you so much for submitting. And you had some very, very great ideas for podcasts. Today, we want to take one of those ideas from the survey, and we want to talk about it. And the question that was asked us in this survey and asked to be able to do one of our podcasts is balancing busy lives so sex is still a priority. That is a fantastic question. We realize that as we get on with life, we get in the middle of it, especially when we have kids, work, all the things that come
Volunteers.
with life.
Ooh.
Yes, there's school, church, takes our time.
House projects, homes, cars, bills.
There's never enough time. And in the end, when we feel exhausted at the end of the day and we're trying to get with each other, it usually doesn't work.
I mean, not in the way that couples usually approach it. This is true.
Right. And throughout the years, we've really struggled with this ourselves, to be honest with you, especially as you have a more spontaneous person and a more responsive person. That spontaneous person, I told Amy, 24/7, 7 days a week, I don't care. Like, I can be half dead. Just let's get going. I don't mind. In fact, we laugh about it when we talked about tantric sex and me being in my head and not being able to get out of my head and enjoy this. I think that didn't work. And the only time it really didn't work was I was so tired. When Amy initiated it, I couldn't get into my head because my head was mentally exhausted. And so I actually figured out how to get in my body, and it was fantastic. We definitely have been here where we're living our lives and things happen and sex does not become a priority. And it can be a problem if we let it go that way.
I've even seen it a lot. I've seen this problem still exist in retirement. There's this idea that as soon as the kids move out and you be empty nesters, that all of a sudden you'll have all this time. Well, kids come home for a long time. And even when you're really, truly empty nesters, there's still a lot in life that can be easily become a priority. It can be grandkids. It can be hobbies and other pursuits. And it still has to be an intentional priority. I don't think that sexual intimacy ever on its own becomes a priority.
Yeah. 100% for sure. Even, I think we won't spend a lot of time talking about this because the core to having great sex and making sure that we're doing it on a consistent basis is one, coming to grips with what it means to us. And if one of us is doing it out of obligation or a task base, that's a no starter, right? So if we're at that place where we're still working towards getting it out of task base, obligation, that's the first thing that has to happen.
Duty-based, taking care of arousal, needing to manage a spouse or partner so that they won't be grumpy, so that they'll be cooperative. Anything based in those meanings isn't desirable. And when something's not desirable, you're not going to make it a high priority.
Yeah, you're going to be exhausted and you're thinking, this is one more task I have to do. There's no way, right?
No thanks.
That's going to happen.
And because it's a task that's so personal and involves so much vulnerability with your body, I've heard a lot of spouses argue, well, I did the dishes for you, so you should give me sex, or I went to work for you, so you should give me sex, or I, did all of this childcare, so you should give me sex. And great, yes, I'm happy those tasks are being done. But there's a difference between doing even those types of tasks and the exposure and personal vulnerability of sexual intimacy. And it's not something that if you want it to actually be intimate and desirable and good, that you can just do.
Right. Never tit for tat at that point. And we get in trouble as spontaneous people if we go out trying to do the chores and do those things just to, in return, get laid, is what I like to say.
The ulterior motive
It is
is
definitely the ulterior motive. And it's like, we're going to make it perfect for you so that you can do this for us. And again, there's only one thing that can come out of obligation. The only one, no matter what. It may not come right away, but eventually it will always end in resentment. Can't be anything else, because you're doing it out of obligation. You're not doing it willingly, not doing it because you're excited to do it, not doing it because you see a benefit for yourself. You're doing it for someone else and their needs and trying to meet them.
It's kind of like going to the gym and working out so someone else could benefit.
Right.
It's not sustainable. It's not desirable. It doesn't have enough personal investment. It doesn't have a personal meaning that's meaningful to you. And so you won't continue in it.
Right. It just will not happen. And it always brings me back, and I've mentioned it several times on the podcast, the moment that we had at a retreat, because we were going through this, right? We were talking about being connected and having these moments of sexual intimacy. And every woman's hand almost in that whole retreat was raised and saying, I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I've taken care of the kids. I've done all these things. I don't see how I can even get there. And we hadn't even talked about what it takes for a responsive desire person to get in a place where they can be aroused and have desire. That's a whole nother, lots of subjects and topics that we've talked about over the podcast. But it's just the practicality of it. And when our friend stood up and said, what are you talking about? You better take me to the room and spoil me. That's the only time that happens. I have to take care of the kids all the time. I'm going to go in the room and I'm going to get spoiled.
But that was because she had a meaning frame that that's what was going to happen.
And that's exactly right. And everyone's jaw dropped, right? Like, what are you talking about? That's craziness. But really, it was that meaning frame around what it looked like for her. And by the way, it was great because us husbands, we love to spoil our wives in that way. It is something that turns us on to be able to do that. And so it works perfectly.
So I think what we're saying, in order for sex to be a priority, it has to have a personal meaning that is desirable to both spouses. Has to have something in that experience that both spouses want. You can't just say, okay, we're going to make this a priority and it's going to become desirable. It doesn't work that way. It means that each spouse has to be able to understand or know or want some part of that experience for themselves. What I mean is they have a meaning that this is desirable for me. This is pleasurable for me. I enjoy being spoiled. I enjoy playing in the forbidden. I enjoy being cherished, being the one, being chosen. I enjoy the closeness. I enjoy the connection. I enjoy the physical touch. I enjoy their smell. I enjoy the arousal. There has to be something in that experience that each spouse wants. And I think that's usually step one. What has happened is there's been some kind of programming or there's been pain. Let me back up. What has happened a lot of times is one spouse gets the idea that, oh, this is my job to manage the other. In the management, there's nothing desirable in it. And so it does become a place of resentment. It will get to a lower and lower and lower priority because it's work.
Right.
And sexual intimacy isn't supposed to be work in that manner. Yes, it may ask you to look at yourself. It may ask you to look for meanings. It may ask you to find what's desirable, that kind of work. But that's meaningful, desirable work. It shouldn't feel like a task or a chore type of work.
I remember so much how we would do this and we would have sexual encounters and feel so empty.
Mm-hmm.
Amy, I look over to Amy and she looked like she'd just been stolen from.
I felt stolen from. And it was because I was in that framing of it's my work to take care of you.
And there's nothing worse from a spouse that loves and cares for someone to think that they took something from them that wasn't theirs to take, right? And ultimately, in the end, spontaneous spouses want to be chosen. So if it's done out of obligation, we're not truly being chosen. It's done out of obligation. And when you take something from someone, you look at them and you see that they've been taken from, that doesn't make you feel chosen.
Mhm.
And so you don't even get the thing that you're desiring most out of it from a spontaneous place if we haven't come to this place where we've discovered our sexuality in a way. One, I think the spontaneous understanding that their sexuality is not bad and that it's a good thing, but also understanding that they're okay if they don't get it. And there's not meaning behind if the spouse says, no, I can't right now. That doesn't mean they're not choosing you. That means that they really can't right now because they may have some breaks or other things that are keeping them from doing it. And so, from our perspective, is really being able to hold on to ourselves and realize, no, this isn't bad to have these desires. But if we can't get this in the moment, that doesn't mean there's something wrong with this either.
Mhm. I do see a lot of spontaneous spouses that make it mean if my spouse doesn't want to be sexually intimate with me, then I'm failing. And often what's failing is the meanings that are being exchanged between you of that intimacy, not a personal failure. And so it's these meanings, it's these patterns that we usually have to address. And what I mean by that is if one spouse is in the meaning of this is my work, this is my chore, this is my task, that has to be addressed. You can't desire that. It's not desirable. Sexual intimacy is so personal. Again, it has to have a personal component to it that is desirable for each person. And so, from responsive desire, it usually is about finding that meaning. What is meaningful in this experience? What do you enjoy? What brings you pleasure? What type of meanings are you drawn to in any type of movies or books or shows? There are meanings through all of those. The meanings of forbidden, like, maybe he's not of the same class as she is and they shouldn't be dating, but they've fallen in love. Or maybe the meanings of rebellion that, this really powerful CEO wants to be dominated and there's some forbiddenness in this. Maybe the meanings of being chosen. I walked into the room and I saw you and I knew you were the one and I wanted you. Or the meanings of being cherished and spoiled, like I want to just be adored and spoiled and loved and ravished. Maybe it's experienced and inexperienced, that someone was the player and the other one was very naive and they have this experienced inexperienced dynamic. There's so many meanings that each of us can personally find enticing. And so when you are looking to make this a priority, first you want to see what meanings bring you together. What meanings do you both find desirable in this? Is it the closeness? Is it the touch? Is it the playfulness? Is it the forbiddenness? Is it the chosenness? Is it the adoredness? Is it the rebelliousness? What is it? What is it that can bring you together to this space? And often there's differences between them, but there's still room in those differences to find some way to collaborate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key word is collaborate there, right? As spontaneous folks, we do this all the time. We have it in our head. We have stories written, we have fantasies played out. We know exactly what it's supposed to look like, how it's supposed to turn out, how great it's supposed to feel, how great they're supposed to feel down to the T, right? And that really causes us to be in a place where we can't co create. And it really is key to this, getting to the desire part of it and wanting to be able to both enjoy this so that we can make it a priority. For the spontaneous, I've learned even more recently, I've got to bring myself back to the now. Like these fantasies aren't bad. I'm not saying we can't have them and you should stay away from them. I'm not downing them at all. These desires aren't bad. But when we're playing in the future, in our thoughts and our minds that have played out, we're setting up expectations that our spouses don't even know about. And how likely are they going to meet those expectations? Very unlikely. And so we're putting them in a situation that they're just going to fail.
Right. We'd have to become a mind reader and guess your every move. And it's not that these ideas are bad, because I think they can become great suggestions to collaborate with. But it's when you've decided that this
This
is
is
the
what it's
way
going to
it's
look
going to
like.
go
Yeah.
and this is how it's going to be. And you really haven't made room for your spouse yet. And they are a whole nother person too. And on responsive desire, we also are learning to expand and make some room for spontaneous, learning to maybe explore and try out different meanings to see.
I mean, you talk about how you were so scared of my sexuality at first, right? You were so worried about what it meant and what you'd have to do and how you perform.
Oh,
So
I
even
was
getting over, yeah, you
scared
were
of
scared.
your fantasies, downright scared.
I remember I was coaching a couple and we used this, I don't like to use it anymore, but this analogy of this staircase and being aroused, right? Where we, at the top, you're fully aroused and you're having these great sexual experiences. And one spouse might be up one flight of stairs, another one might just be getting started. And you have to kind of make sure that we're getting the time for that arousal to take place from a responsive person. Again, don't love the analogy anymore because I
Because
don't
it
do it because
kind
it
of
makes
makes
sound
one
one
like,
above the other one and one up
yeah,
and
I
one
don't
down.
love that either.
And so I don't love it anymore, but I was using this analogy before I ended up not liking it. And the wife's like, no, I don't have a problem with that. I'm just scared as hell about what's behind the door once I get to the top of the staircase. Like,
Where's he
what's he going to
leading
ask for
me?
me next, right?
Yeah.
Can I get there? And am I able to say no without having him be grumpy or pout or do whatever we do to rebel because our ideas weren't accepted?
Yeah.
And that just starts from having these expectations that we set. And I told one of my clients, like, you're asking your spouse to do something that's impossible for them. I asked him, I said, go back and tell me about how a responsive desire person gets aroused. He goes, well, it takes a little while and they have to be in the mood and get into that moment. And then after they've been in this sense of arousal, then the desire will come. So if you're asking them to jump in right then and do something that you've been having on your mind for 2 weeks to do, you're asking them to do something impossible because they haven't had a time to think about it, to be aroused, to find that desire. And then I had another client, I thought this was a brilliant analogy. And I applauded when I heard it. I'm like, this is a perfect analogy. He said, yeah, because I'm a microwave and my wife's an oven. What a perfect analogy, right? Like we push the button and it's hot. Bam, we're cooking right away.
Yes.
And you got to preheat that oven and you got to bring it up to temperature.
It
But
takes a
I
lot
can
longer to cook in the oven.
but I can fit some amazing meals in that oven that you can't cook in a microwave, right?
And they get a nice, crispy, good finish.
There's great stuff about it that you can't do in a microwave. And so it was a great analogy because, yes, that's exactly what's right. Is that
But sometimes you use
we take
both,
the-
right? Like
yeah.
we have to defrost in the microwave and then to
Right.
cook in the
Right.
oven.
That's what a great analogy
Or
that
like something that's
yes.
already been cooked in the oven, then you might heat up in the microwave. Like they work together here.
So it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing.
I want to you brought up an idea real quick, and I'm going to get back to the main question. But while I'm thinking of it, so often the assumption is that the spontaneous desire spouse is better at sexual intimacy than the responsive. And I just want to say that's a fallacy.
It totally is.
Yes, they may have more access to arousal or may have more access to fantasies in the way that people usually think of fantasies, but they are in no way superior in sexuality. I think it's something that both spouses, whether responsive or spontaneous, learn. And I think what spontaneous kind of do is they think they already know.
Yeah. And if you look like me and could do this like me, it would be perfect.
And they can underscore all of the input that responsive can actually help them become a better lover. And responsive desire may have to take a little longer to access or to move into that space, but they are often very intuitive and very in tune once they get there and have a lot that they can then collaborate with in spontaneous. So I just want to say that one is not better than the other, which is why we don't like the staircase analogy, because it makes it seem like, oh, someone's advanced and someone's at the bottom. No,
I don't think so too. But I'll be brutally honest. I think that the responsive desire partner has a larger capacity for sexual feelings and sexuality, to be honest with you. It's not as a quick, I almost feel like it's a quick burning, like a rocket ship. Like we get it up in space, but get it up, I guess. Pun not intended, but pun intended. We get it off the ground, but that's as far as we can go because we're just a flash in the pan. And when we allow our responsive desire people to set that next rocket to get us into orbit, their capacity is just amazing and often untouched and untapped into. And I like to tell my responsive friends, just get the hell out of the way. You have no clue. You have spent your whole life fantasizing about what it's going to be like. And I can tell you it's way better than any fantasies you've ever thought of if you just get out of the way and invite your responsive desire partner to collaborate with you and create this co-creation. It's just fantastic. We're so stuck in it has to look like this or it's not any good.
Mm-hmm. So we talked about our first suggestion is first check in on your meanings, check in what each spouse is thinking, check in what each spouse is believing about this time together. If one spouse is in any way in a duty frame or anything like, well, if they're aroused, then I have to take care of it. You've really got to make sure that those are addressed and changed, that this is a space where you can be present and not have to work, that this is a space that is desirable or meaningful for both spouses. So that's the first step. And once you have established that, which may take a little while because you may have to do some digging to understand what your meanings were and what they aren't and what you want them to be and so forth and so on. Then the second is, I find that no matter what stage of life you're in, that to make sex a priority, it has to be intentional. Whether this is one morning or night or something a week where you schedule that night for you. I don't recommend scheduling sex. I recommend scheduling time, at least an hour or two, where you can be together. And in this time, you have time to first unwind from all of the to-dos and do's and being and, all of the busyness in your mind, and learn to just relax and be together first. Sometimes couples take turn planning these types. And what I mean by planning is they may say, okay, tonight it's my turn to kind of be in charge. And I've planned like a long bubble bath for us with some soft music. And another night, the other spouse may, okay, I've planned some massages, or I've planned a steamy movie night where we can watch something with, a little more romance in it. It may be music and dancing. It may be reading a story together. There's so many ways this could be. I hate to give too many suggestions, but a place that allows you to shift into being together again. Learning how to do that. It might be doing some breath work together, like lying on the bed and breathing and just getting to a state of stillness and relaxation. It may be a really long conversation where you just unwind and untangle everything that's going on in your life. So just finding that place to be first, because until that connection is reestablished, where you're both present and the connection is there, you don't actually want to move on to arousal.
Yeah, and I think this really leads into a topic that has become really important to us too. We need to redefine what sex is.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to remove any of the outcome-based sexual experiences. I was talking to a couple the other night, and I said, for years and years and years, Amy I's definition of sex was we had some floor play, then one of us had an orgasm, and then the other one had an orgasm, and we were done. And if that sequence took place, then we're like, oh, success. We checked it off the list. And again, if we're going to set some time aside for this, and I think this will lead into our next suggestion after this too, but if we're going to set some time aside of this, we've got to get rid of that outcome based of what sex looks like. I suggest sitting in a bubble bath and listening to music is sexual intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Holding each other while you're watching a movie is sexual intimacy. We have taken it and had to define that until we get to orgasm, one or both of us, then it's not sexual intimacy. And I say that for us, it has become wrong. That we've redefined what sexuality looks like and what this sexual act is actually. And we haven't put those expectations on there, which have allowed us to open up to a whole new world of what it means to have sexual intimacy.
A much broader expression in so many ways. And I think that's part of what usually makes this more desirable for most spouses and makes it easier to be a priority. What I mean by that is there's more possibility, there's more options, there's more creativity, there's more points of expression. It's not just, oh, we have to do A, B, C, and then we're done. You have this whole expansion of possibilities, and all of them matter, and all of them create this sexual connection. And that is a lot more desirable for so many couples.
Yeah, and when we get rid of this definition that we're measuring against, it gets rid of the disappointments too. It didn't look like this. I had a client tell me, I just sobbed one night because I didn't get through the 3 steps and I thought I was a complete failure.
Mm.
But if you dig into it, they had a complete connecting moment up to that point where they didn't get to step number 3 for both of them. And now they thought they failed.
Mm.
And it's just the baggage and the scars and everything that comes along with that, because we've put a definition of what it looks like and what the outcome has to be. And if we, again, like Amy just said, if we can take away those expectations and those outcomes, maybe you don't have an hour to go through all 3 of those steps. Maybe you only have 15 minutes. But if you haven't defined orgasm as the outcome that defines whether we had a sexual encounter or not, you can hold each other for 5 minutes.
You can make out.
Enjoy it and make out in that
You
moment.
can have gazes.
And maybe just look at each other, right?
You can hold each other really tight.
And that takes 10 minutes. And I swear I know each of you out there have 10 minutes. If you take 10 minutes less on your cell phone, on social media, all the other places, other than listen to our podcast, because that's number 1 important.
Okay.
If you do that, you'll find 10 minutes. You can find 10 minutes every day, probably.
Yeah.
And you'll be having sex every day. And now my spontaneous friends are going to be excited because that's what they want.
Again, you've got to remove that this has to end a certain way and be really open and willing to explore and experience all of the options. What I see happens in couples, like we talked about at the beginning, is when this becomes a duty or a task, or when there's arousal and it's, oh, now I got to fix this. The other spouse stops touching, stops connecting. You stop kissing. You stopped exchanging any flirting, playful exchanges, because now you have to have sex, and sex is ABC.
Yeah, and then we don't have time to do it.
And we don't have time. And so when you can broaden this definition, when you can remove any expectation or any goal and outcome, and you have a lot more freedom to find not only little moments throughout the day, but also you can make intentional time to be together and to experience whatever it is you want to experience as a couple.
Yeah, I just had a client that I coached the other day that had a huge success story on this. And he was really struggling with setting those expectations and having a definition of what sex looks like. And he decided, I am tired of this. We're just going to go back to high school days and start to court with each other and do that. And so he texted his wife and said, I'm coming home for lunch. Let's make out like we're in high school. She said, okay, great.
And she said, okay, great, because they'd already had a conversation that
Right.
nothing was expected beforehand.
Right.
So
There was no
just put that in.
expectations. And he was really, really concerned about that. And he really checked in with himself. He said, I just expect, I have appointments and stuff downwards. I'm just going to go home for lunch. We're just going to make out. I'm really going to enjoy that. And that's what I desire. And I don't want anything else. So he gets home for lunch. He eats his lunch really fast. They get to making out. They're making out for about 5 minutes. And she goes, I don't want to stop. And the funniest part about it is he almost blew it, because he was like, I didn't want so bad to make her think like I had done this just to get laid, that I had set up this trap. And now that she was there, that she was doing it. His mind went there and tried to tell him, you better stop. You better say no. But fortunately enough, he didn't. And he said, oh, great. And they continued on. And in that moment, it was beautiful and wonderful because he hadn't set the expectation, and he had this great experience in doing it. And as we deciphered it, as we took it apart and looked at each piece of it together, we could see why it was successful. Again, he went to his responsive spouse 2 hours before and said, hey, I'm coming home. We're going to make out. You think 2 hours is enough for a responsive person to start thinking about? Hell yeah. And she was willing because she knew there was an expectation. She said, oh man, this is exciting. Get to make out, right? And she'd put herself in that place where this could be successful and she could enjoy it. There was no other expectations. And then in the moment, because they were both in this moment enjoying each other, it was a beautiful moment for him. And it was really fun to unpack each part of that and see how it was successful. Now, replicating that is the problem. Sometimes it's moments just happen because they're a flash in the pan and we're right things at the right time. But more and more as we get rid of the expectations and we realize that the connection is really the important part and that we really need to get rid of the definition of a successful sexual encounter, these moments can happen.
And there's a lot more freedom in them. When there's more freedom, there's more desire. Desire and eroticism are best friends. So the more freedom, the more desire, the more eroticism grows, the more that these become even more meaningful, more connecting. And so it kind of becomes an upward spiral as opposed to
Yeah.
the downward one that couples usually get stuck in. Address meanings. And number 2, make time to be together and don't put an expected outcome on that time. So depending on the stage of life that you're in, will probably determine what time you have. I was coaching one couple and their time was going to be Saturday morning and they have lots of dogs. And if she gets up and takes care of the dogs and her head goes into like to-do mode, I'm kind of like this too. So I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. If I get up and
stay in bed. That's what I thought. You stay right there. Do whatever you want to do. I don't know. I don't care. Get hot and heavy with yourself if you want.
Start doing all the things, then her mind switches out and it just starts for the day. And so they have worked out the logistics where normally she does get up and feed the dogs, but on Saturday morning when it's their morning time, the door gets locked, he takes the dogs out, and she stays in bed so that she can stay in this space. She can start to transition and start to be, and then he can come back. And so it's also working out some of the logistics like that. If there is a logistic that really takes you out of this space, be free to talk about that. Is it noise? Is it sound? Is it being heard? Is it getting up and then your mind just moves on?
Is the door locked?
Is the door locked? That's right. You can address these. You can turn on sound machines. You can turn on music. You can, have the spouse who isn't bothered by getting up, get up and then come back. You want to be able to make sure you can have the logistic conversations too. I know if we were bathing or showering, I would be like, is it a hair wash day? And I would be telling you, no, it's not a hair wash day. We can't do that. These are real too. So making it a priority.
Oh yeah, my hair's terrible. I get it, right?
You want to be able to collaborate on that. And we collaborate in a couple ways. We have our specific times that we both know and we both understand, and they happen regularly. We've talked about our daily morning ritual, which under these terms is a sexual connection. I'm not saying that we have sex in the intercourse form that you may be thinking of, but it is a very connected, sexually intimate way to start out the day.
Yep.
We also have our weekly time together where we look at the calendar. He has a busy schedule. I have a busy schedule. And we say, okay, we think this night or this morning or this chunk of time, that's our time. That's going to be ours. And we have to set it aside. And I've seen that's true for young couples with babies, adolescents, empty nest couples, somewhere in between empty nest couples. You have to set time or we just get pulled away into other pursuits or distractions, or it just seems to be no matter what stage we're in, that conversation has to happen.
Yeah, I think almost that's the next one I wanted to dive into a little bit, which has really kind of helped us. We talked about the simmering effect, right? It's helped us go through the simmering effect by having this daily ritual of being able to connect in a sexual way. And again, if you haven't done the other foundational stuff, don't try this because it will go fail, because I would have failed miserably. And sometimes I still do fail because I don't get myself in the right mind space. I talked about as soon as I started doing my homework for one of those podcasts about thinking, where am I at before I started the ritual in the morning? It's really changed the ritual, to be honest with you. It was good before, and we'd gotten over the fact of, hey, the expectation isn't there. I know that this is going to turn into sex every day. We've changed the definition of what sex actually is, and that's helped a lot. But it really, really has helped me to take a few moments to myself and ask myself, where am I at in my headspace? Am I in the moment right here in my body, or am I somewhere else fantasizing about something that's about to happen? And when I've gotten to the moment, it's allowed to have this actual connection, this sexual connection to happen every morning. Me not be disappointed because it doesn't go anywhere. Me really just be able to enjoy and say, this is the most amazing thing. And it's almost the yin to the yang of our emotional connection, right? So as we do our emotional sharings every day and we connect emotionally, that preps us for this morning ritual because we are all on the same page. All the shit has been spread out, right? It's on the floor. We've used it to fertilize instead of hold it and throw it at each other, right? And so we've gotten ourselves in a good place emotionally, which allows that to have that sexual intimacy ritual every day.
Similar to you, but different. You talked about finding before you reach for me in the morning, you have to make sure that you're present. My finding presence is a little different. It is, am I here in this moment, or am I already making my to-do list for the day or for the next day? Am I thinking about all the unfinished tasks, or am I here present feeling Greg and his closeness and the sensations? So for me, it's the presence of moving from doing to being. And when we had Monica Tanner on, she talked about often responsive desire is like having 100 tabs open on the computer and you got to have some time to go through and shut all those tabs. That's me. That's what I have to always be aware of. Like, okay, close the tabs, come to this present moment. And that is the kind of transition that helps me to enjoy what's coming. And the meaning is, for me, I love to be spoiled in this way. I love to be cherished in this way. And so I'm willing to close all my tabs to get to the cherishing. If I didn't have the meaning, I would be like, no, I want to do all these things because I like doing these things and it feels good to do these things or thinking about them or strategizing them. So there needs to be a meaning that is desirable that you want that will help you close all the tabs.
And remember, you're going to mess it up. This isn't going to work perfectly every time.
It's not supposed to.
It's not supposed to because we're human. And we love what our friend Kim Job talked about in her podcast with us, right? About the story we tell behind ourselves when we fail, that it's a failure. But in reality, it's just a chance to try again, to learn, to think about what went wrong potentially, what we can do better. It's not a stopping point. It's a launching point to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go through these things, no matter what phase you're at, if you're at the beginning phase of trying just to get good meaning and it's getting frustrating and you figure something out and you're like, oh my gosh, this is working, and you get all excited about it, and then you're going to mess it up. And that means don't stop. That's usually what happens is couples stop at that moment and say, oh, it's all wrong. We can't do this. No, it's a moment to try again, another launching point for you to get better. And or if you've gotten all that foundation put there and you have the meaning and you both are really desirous and to have this sexual experience and you're going through these rituals and you wake up one morning and you don't center yourself and you grab your wife and you want all these crazy things you thought about in the morning to happen and you find yourself having that meaning, don't think you're a terrible, awful person. Don't, make that mean there's something wrong with you. I know better. I've told myself that a million times. You know better. No, again, it's a time to think, oh, this is different. I don't like this. It's a launching point to get better. So there's always the possibility as you have this sexual relation that you're going to do it wrong because you're human. And it's always a time to be able to reconnect, be honest with each other. There's nothing more sexy.
Honesty
There's
is
nothing
sexy,
more sexy, my spontaneous male friends, than when you're honest and you take ownership. Man, I'd mess that up. Sorry, babe. I really rolled over and grabbed you and I had expectations. And you think you're trying to protect yourself and you don't want to say that, but she knows it already because she experienced it.
She lived it.
There's nothing more sexy to her when I say that.
It builds so much trust and it builds
And
so
really,
much
if we're
trust
talking about
and
what's the core to the
intimacy.
sexual experience,
Trust.
number one thing that's core is trust.
Yeah.
Is trusting. You're literally giving your body to someone else. You're literally entering into someone else's body. There's got to be trust of what's going to go on there. And these moments, we can be really honest with each other and say, hey, we messed up. I want to try again. Builds huge trust.
And I think the last step I would add to making it a priority You've got your meanings, you've got your intentional time, creating the space for that. The last step I would add is to really bring your heart to whatever engagement, interaction you're having. We talk about this experience that's called feeling while touching because often we aren't present, or we're just, I'm rubbing Greg really empty on the shoulder.
He uses me grabbing her.
Yeah.
I grab her boob, you can see it.
Just a very shallow, non-present touch.
Yeah.
And to practice bringing your presence to the touch, no matter where you're touching or looking or or how you're connecting with your spouse, to really bring yourself to that. Again, that's what helps to bring desire. It helps
That's the
to bring
exposing
the
part,
meaning.
right?
Yeah, like that says I'm risking myself.
I'm putting myself out here because I care about you enough to do that.
When you have that type of honest vulnerability, it really does create the connection and the intimacy. And again, it's not about what happens. It's not about the toys and not about the world. All of these are fine, but it's the meaning first, and that bringing your heart to whatever is happening in those moments. And so that helps to make something a priority because it is so meaningful. It is so rewarding. It is so replenishing. And you can't force something to be a priority. There has to be some internal motivator to want it. Sex is worth wanting. And the only reason to have sex is because you want it. So let's have some good reasons why. Let's bring yourself to it. Let's make time for it, but not out of obligation, out of finding what's really desirable in it.
Right. So let's get literal here. Everything that we've talked about in the last 44 minutes and 32 seconds, I know because I have a clock. Wow. Everything we've talked about, if we were to add this up, literally we're talking about minutes a day, right? Mm-hmm. And maybe an hour a week or two a week. So we're talking about over a week, at most 2 hours. I know.
3 hours maybe.
I know no matter how busy you are, you can find 3 hours. I know it. I know you can find 15, 20 minutes a day. I know that's what I said to one of my clients. We talked about this last time. He's like, I don't have time for the emotional download. It takes so long. I'm like, because you're not doing it on a regular basis. So every time you do an emotional connection, it's hours because it's a big deal. But if you're taking 10 minutes, I said 10 minutes, you have 10 minutes a day. You can do this. And I think that's the biggest thing to take away here, that all the suggestions we've come up with and talked about, it's not a ton of time. And if it is a priority, you can find that time to go do it. And it's usually working through the obstacles of not making it a priority that doesn't allow you to have that time. That time's there.
Mm-hmm. Most of us have it on our phone scrolling.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we should have sex instead of pick up our phones this week. That should be our challenge. What do you think about that?
Wow.
Every time you go to pick up your phone and go on social media, jump me.
Okay.
It would be really healthy, I think.
It sounds so enticing.
Yeah, look, she desires me. Look at that. We'll let you know how that homework assignment goes. I'm guessing it's not going to happen, but I can always dream and hope.
Sex in the wrong way. You said jump me.
Okay, that was just an example. Hold my hand.
Yeah.
Gaze deeply into my eyes. All right, folks. Thank you so much for spending time with us. We really, really, really appreciate it. Please go like and subscribe to this podcast. A little thumbs up or stars or whatever your podcast thing gives you to do, go give it to us. And then, write us a response. We would love to have you write a response up to those things. They're just wonderful. We read through them, we see them, we love it. So go do that. And then please come join us on laneforlifecoaching.com. Sign up for a free consult. We'd love to see you there. We can't wait to start working with Suzette. Congratulations again. We'll be emailing you a link to start those. And until next time,
keep undressing your intimacy.
Bye-bye.